Hi, welcome to DrumWise Meets, and today I'm here with my former drum teacher, Mr. Scarff, or rather, should I say, Richard Scarff. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Tom.
So my first question for you today, Richard, what age did you get into drums, and when you first started, what artists or bands inspired you?
Well, I started learning the drums when I was 9, and I was already learning the piano, the violin and the guitar before that. And I started having lessons, it was a group lesson at Gravesham Youth Music. And I think there were 3 of us, and we used to make a drum kit up between us. Somebody was on a concert bass drum, somebody was playing a snare drum, and somebody was playing a cymbal. I can't really remember who I kind of listened to at that age. I used to play in the wind bands and things and the orchestras at the music centre. So I think I was probably just influenced by that, really. The other people I was learning with and the music I was playing there. I don't particularly remember listening to anything other than what would have been on the radio, really.
And when you first started, what was your first proper drum kit?
I didn't actually have a drum kit for a long time. I used to play at the music centre, Gravesham Youth Music Centre. They had a Pearl Export, and I can still remember that. It was a shiny blue one. I didn't actually have a drum kit myself until I think I was about 16 or 17. And somebody was selling their drum kit, and I paid £80 for it. And the bass drum was a bit like, the sort of stripy style bass drums that you see the Beatles playing and 60s bands playing. It was a bit like that, and it had 4 concert toms with it that I still use. It had a pair of hi-hats, had a rivet cymbal, which I still sometimes use, and I think it had a couple of other crashes with it, paste or piced. How do you say that word? I never know how to say it.
I say it peisty.
Peisty, yeah, peisty cymbal. So I got all of that for £80, which at the time I thought was quite good.
Yeah. And my next question is, normally, do you still have it? But obviously you've said that you do still have parts of that and you still use it, so that's cool.
Yeah, some of it's up in the loft and some of it's at the band room.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. And talking about equipment then, what's your current setup for teaching and playing and so on? Obviously I see you've got a kit behind you.
Yeah, so I bought this about 3 years ago, I think, mainly because of the noise aspect. It's really handy, because, the acoustic kits are so loud. So I mostly play this and practice on this one now. I've also got a Premier projector kit, which is from the 90s in the black sparkly finish, which is they're really hard to get hold of now, actually, because a few years ago I wanted a couple of extra toms for it, and someone was selling a couple of toms, but they were in Durham. And then somebody that I knew, I just happened to be speaking to them, were going to Durham that weekend, and they picked them up for me. So I've also got a Premier snare drum, which I bought while I was at music college from Foots. I've got a K Custom Dry Zildjian cymbal, and I've got some K crashes, some KZ hi-hats, and some A's as well.
So this next question I feel is quite a hard question, and a lot of people have struggled with this, but I'm not here to make your life easy, Richard. So if you had to pick just one Who would be your all-time favourite drummer?
So I'm actually prepared for this question. I'm quite a big Genesis fan,
Hmm.
so I'm going to go for Chester Thompson.
Hence all the concert toms.
Yes, but I mean it's virtually impossible to pick a favourite drummer. But I thought, well, you know, he's a pretty amazing drummer, and some of that drumming when you
Yeah.
listen to the Genesis tracks, especially when they're both playing at the same time, when Phil Collins is playing at the same time.
Mm.
So I thought, yeah, he'd be up there.
Ah, awesome.
Mm.
Is there a reason why you picked Chester over Phil?
Well, not particularly, no. I probably could have picked either of them.
Hmm.
I mean, Phil Collins does some pretty amazing stuff as well, doesn't he, sometimes? So,
Yeah, he does. Yes, like I talked to someone else about this recently. The Brand X playing and stuff. It's just it's mind blowing, and you don't even realise it's him. And then someone says, "Oh yeah, that's Phil Collins." And you're like,
yeah.
"Whoa, yeah." So, on to possibly another difficult question here. Although actually, I think I know the answer to this one already for you. What's been the highlight of your career so far? And I mean, when I say I think I know the answer, surely it was meeting and teaching me. I mean, that's it.
Well, apart from that one, I would probably say, I mean, some of the big concerts that I've done with my brass band are quite amazing. You know, you really get a buzz from them. And also, we recorded Listen to the Band a few times for Radio 2. I actually did a xylophone solo as well on one of them. So I'd probably pick that. But also, it's really good when pupils pass their exams and, you know, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, those things I would say.
Excellent. And speaking of passing exams, this is a good time for me to talk about this because I said there that obviously one big highlight is meeting and teaching me. So we were talking about this off camera. It must have been at least 20 years ago that we, you know, had lessons, and you were my teacher at school. And passing grades, I did my grade 2 from this book right here.
Yeah, I remember that book.
And it's still got your notation in it, including at the back here. Some
oh, look at that. Yeah.
Look at that. It's all there.
Yeah.
From like over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. And I suppose this is a good chance for me just to say, you know, obviously I got a drum kit for Christmas, and then I started having lessons at school, and you were, you know, my first influence, and you let me sit in on other lessons that you did after my lesson at school, which one, I think possibly helped me down the career path that I've gone down, and two, got me out of maths. And I mean, for me, that was probably, I think I picked that. That's the main thing. Although my maths GCSE mark was shocking, but who cares? I don't need that now. I have an accountant. But yeah, so, you know, thank you for that inspiration all those years ago, and letting me sit in on lessons. It possibly has shaped who I am now. So thank you.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out and led on to other things. So yeah, it's amazing.
And talking about your career highlights and things that you've done, talk to us about the book that you've written.
Well, I've just finished writing a book which actually isn't anything to do with drums, but it is to do with reading music notation, because I teach the piano as well. And I've found often pupils can go for quite a number of years and they still don't understand the concept and the logics connecting the stave and the keyboard. So what this book does is it's got lots of exercises in there, and it starts off really simple with just identifying the lines and the spaces and whereabouts on the stave the notes are, and then it starts to talk about musical shapes in terms of high and low, and it uses sort of curved lines that come up and down to show the shape that the notes are making. And then there's some flashcards to learn the notes on the treble clef stave, and some also to learn on the bass clef stave. And then it goes on to ledger lines at the end, and it also uses lots of colourful diagrams, and there are places where you can zoom parts of it up to see like a keyboard, and then you can zoom it back down again. And there are hints and tips which kind of fade out as you go through the exercise. So it starts off by really helping you, and then the help goes and you're kind of on your own after that. So that's what it is basically. But I've been using it in my lessons for well over 10 years. And it wasn't until the lockdown came, and then I actually had time to do lots of things that I haven't had time to do. I actually got round to finishing off and publishing it.
Excellent. And we shall put a link to where the book can be purchased down below this video on YouTube. So check that out. And just from my experience, that is something that would be really good for a lot of drummers to look at, because over the years that I've been teaching, I'll get my my students that get a bit older and they think, oh, I want to go to BIM or something like that, you know, and study drums, and then they download the criteria and it's like, oh, I need to be able to understand, you know, music theory and like melodic stuff. I don't know any of that. So if they just work on that alongside the drums, you know, early on, then that worry goes away. Just having that basic understanding of melodic music, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you do this in your lessons, but I always teach about where the chords are changing and the structure, you know, the 8-bar structures and the 12-bar structures and all that kind of thing. I do that pretty much right from the start. And I get them to make sure they can identify where the harmonies, say, for example, in a 12-bar blues, because they can't recognize that the chords are changing to begin with. So I get them to recognize that. And that's, you know, that's where you play the crash cymbals and things like that. So it is important, you know, as drummers, we still need to know all of that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And, you know, obviously as drummers, our main job, if we're in a band situation, is to hold the band together and to, in a way, quite often, like lead the band. So by knowing that we're in the verse and then we're in the chorus and the bridge and so on, those changes, absolutely. It's a really important thing to know, definitely.
Yeah.
So on to my next question here. Have you ever had anything go wrong on stage or a recording session when you've been playing live? Anything go wrong that you've had to recover from, whether it be an equipment fail or whether it be just a brain fail?
There's two things that come to mind immediately. I once went to do a concert with Bournemouth Brass, and the first thing that they were playing was the I think it's by Strauss, that famous fanfare, and I had to play the tam tam, and it was right at the beginning of the concert, and I'd just driven all the way down there. There was no rehearsals or anything. I walloped this tam tam at the beginning of this fanfare, and the blimming thing fell over and was just clattering around at the back of the stage there. And of course, I couldn't play it anymore because it had completely fallen over. So that's the first thing that strikes to mind. And the other thing was when I was in the Kent Youth Wind Orchestra, we were doing a concert at Festival Hall, and the clash cymbals fell over. So those are my two main things that I can immediately remember.
Oh, nice. Well, they're pretty good. They're pretty good things. Excellent. Now, putting my drum teacher hat on here for this one. When you first get a gig or a session with a new artist or a new band, how do you go about learning the material? So a couple of options that I've just been throwing out there to people. Do you just listen to the tracks on Spotify or whatever? Or do you listen and transcribe? Or does it happen often where they go, here you go, Richard, here's a folder with all the drum music for you to play off this chart?
I find that if people do give you drum music, it's usually not what you're going to play or what they want you to play anyway. They are useful as guides for the structure of the piece, and it tells you the speed and the time signature and all that kind of thing. But I generally find that the drum parts are fairly useless, actually, as you know, in not even going into any detail. They hardly skim the surface of what you need to play. So I would say mostly it's done by listening to the tracks. And generally, I find it, I mean, I haven't played with any function bands or anything for ages, but you just generally know the songs anyway. If they're songs that are very well known and they've been in the charts and they're kind of in the popular psyche, you know how they go. You don't even need to think about them. You can remember all the feels and all that kind of thing. So I think it's mostly from listening, really.
Yeah, excellent. But reading drum music helps, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. It depends on the part, or, you know, how much the person puts in. But even if they don't put any detail in, it's handy to know how many bars there are in this section and where the repeats are and all that kind of thing. Because then you don't have to remember it then, so it's easier.
Yeah. Excellent. So now on to a couple of curveball questions that I've got lined up for you. And the first one of those is, what are your hobbies away from drums and just music in general?
Well, I like playing squash, do that quite a lot. Cycling. I used to do quite a lot of running. I used to run marathons. Haven't done so much running lately. Traveling, pubs, restaurants, films. So all that type of thing, really.
Yeah, cool. And speaking of food, mentioning restaurants there, this is the second curveball question, which is the most anticipated question of the whole DrumWise Meets series. And, you know, everyone's been talking about this one. So here we go. What's your favourite biscuit?
Favourite biscuit? I think it's those chunky biscuits with the chocolate bits in.
What, like a chunky, like cookie, basically?
Yeah, that's it. That's the word. Yeah, cookie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like a cookie that, you know, you can snap, or are you more of a gooey cookie that kind of bends?
Ooh. A gooey one, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Same here. Gooey cookie
But
all
not
the way.
too gooey.
Yeah. I don't know. You say that, it's like unbaked cookie dough. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we take that cookie, then, you know, your favorite cookie, are you a dunker? Would you
definitely not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Very firm answer there. So you wouldn't dunk it in anything, tea, coffee, nothing.
No, definitely not.
Sounds like you're quite against that.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. In fact, I think there should be a society against that, or some sort of law.
Why are you so against it then? What's the reason?
Well, because I don't like soggy biscuits, and I want the biscuit to be the biscuit and the coffee to be the coffee.
Okay.
Yeah. So, are you a dunker?
I've been known to dunk, but not.
Oh.
You know, not on a daily basis, but it totally depends on what the biscuit is. There's certain biscuits that, you know, that needs to be dunked, like a custard cream. It's got to be done.
Okay, all right. Well, we
Have to,
disagree on that.
yeah, have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
So, moving on to my last question, and this one's quite relevant for you actually, because obviously you taught me at a young age, and I changed this question fairly recently. And I don't know what my answer would be actually, but if you could give just one piece of advice to your younger self, so when you first started playing drums or when you first started taking it a bit more seriously, what would that advice be?
So you can always say practice more, isn't it? That's the answer. That's too easy, really. So I'm trying to think of something else.
It's a good answer though, because the thing that I say most days to students is try and do more practice.
Yeah.
So it's still a good answer.
Yeah. So you can always go and listen to more drummers as well, can't you? But that answer is too easy as well, really. I think I will say try to do more structured practice with a target, perhaps. Because often people practice, but they don't actually practice. They just sort of thrash around for a bit, don't they? And so that's going to be my answer. Have a target more, and try to focus on specific things rather than generally. There we go. That's my answer.
No, that's good. And what you just said there, yeah, again, I'm saying that to people all the time. What you said about, getting on and thrashing around, I say to people that there's a difference between practice and playing. Playing is getting on the kit and playing along to a song that you love, that you already know. That's playing. Whereas practice is doing something that you actually find hard and that like hurts your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's what makes you, well, they both make you a better player, but the practice side of things is the harder thing to do and commit to. But the more of that you do, when you then play songs, you've got more like tools there for adding into your playing.
Yeah, which you can just sort of, it just kind of becomes your habit, really. And then as you're playing, you just pull those things out of the bag and use them. But it takes that initial hard work to put those things into your toolkit.
So Richard, thank you so much for spending your time with us here at DrumWise today. It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
It's nice to talk to you as well, especially after all this time. So thank you.